Hi, I'm Ted Haftegabber, founder and producer of Live Talks Los Angeles. Thanks for joining us. Since we started over a decade ago, we have brought you hundreds of conversations with storytellers, writers, actors, musicians, humorists, chefs, and thought leaders in business and science. You can watch and hear most of these in our YouTube channel and our podcast. For details, visit livetalksla.org. And now, here's the show you've tuned in to see.
Thank you. All right.
This is ridiculous. we're dick joke comics that work in smoky nightclubs.
I know.
Talking about poop, and now we're sitting up here like we're intellectuals.
Look, it's going to be obvious what we are real quick, man. It's not going to last.
You even put a blazer on for this.
I mean, I figure, I'm a New York Times bestseller. I fucking... It's a costume. It's
almost number one.
Almost number one.
Number two.
It feels appropriate to be a comic and be like, yeah, I'm number two.
Yeah.
Right. Like, not just because it means I'm a shit, but also that like you're just right below where you're trying to get. Like,
right.
That feels very much like a comedian's life. You know?
Yeah.
Like, it'd be like if you got an audition, they're like, we want you to play the lead part in this, and they're like, actually, we kind of need like a fat guy to ask for a pizza, and you're like, all right, like that's
and
your
you
role.
grab it.
And you're like, all right, I'll just do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, or you meet a beautiful woman and she flirts with you, and then you realize she goes, I have a friend who really likes you.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
That's every comedian's life story, right?
Pretty much, yeah. We're wingmen.
Yeah. I'm a great wingman.
Are you?
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Fucking phenomenal. If you're single and you roll with me, like, you're getting laid.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I'm just, I'm gonna do it up for you. I'm gonna like tell some jokes, probably buy a round, you know. Oh, your friend, hey, do you want somebody to send a video? Hi, like
right, yeah. Didn't you try to hook somebody up in your book? I'm trying to remember. There was somebody that you set up on a date that didn't go well.
Yeah, that was Sickler, yeah.
Oh, Ryan Sickler,
well,
that's right.
He never got the date because I got called by the security team at Wells Fargo.
Oh, that's what it was. Yeah.
Yeah. I took pictures in the bank. And
how did you take the pictures? You had the phone up on your chest?
I was in the line, and then I was just like, like that, And when they called, they're like, we have like stills and video of you doing that.
Right.
I was like, you caught that? And they're like, yeah. Like, this is pretty high-tech shit here, man. It's a bank,
And by the way, we want the pen back also.
Yeah, give it all back.
Yeah.
That guy talked to me, like, on the phone. He's like, you will delete those photos. And I was like, yes, I will. Like, it reminded me of, like, those stories you hear about a guy. You ever see, like, the guy that will have someone commit a crime, like, on the phone, like, can convince somebody? Like, it was that terrifying.
Oh,
to have somebody tell me, like, you're going to delete those photos. And I was like, I'm pulling over right fucking now. Yeah. Delete them immediately.
But that's kind of because you and I both have been happily married with kids for a long time. And it's a way of vicariously saying, well, if I was single, that's the kind of woman I might be attracted to. And then you try to hook them up with one of your friends.
That's right. That is the move.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the move. You're like, I would do this.
Yeah.
So you should too.
And then they have to they have to tell you details about it if they do.
Yeah. And then if they're like, it was amazing, you're like, all right, like, just fucking calm down, man. Yeah.
So this is really cool. When you asked me to do a book talk with you, I just assumed that you read one.
Yeah.
But you wrote a book.
I wrote a book. I couldn't do the Amazon promo thing they're like, we want you, you'll be on the homepage of Amazon if you tell us your 3 favorite books you read this year. And I go, I didn't read any fucking books this year.
Honestly?
I was like, I started a couple, I don't know. I didn't.
Yeah.
I was like, can we just put mine 3 times there? No. Yeah.
What's the last book you remember actually finishing?
Finishing?
Yeah.
God damn it. It'll take a while.
Wow.
Yeah. I don't remember. But I do that thing where I will see a book and I'll be like, this is what I want to be the guy that reads this.
Yeah.
You know? It could be like, here's what's really, you know, what Putin is really like. And I'll be like, I want to read that. And then I'll just put it on the desk. I'm like, people will know I know Putin. I know see it. Like, I'll buy shit like that.
So you have a good bookshelf.
My shelf, you'll be like, this kid, he knows what's going on.
Right,
but,
right.
But they haven't even been cracked, most of them.
Yeah. Then they look at the book and the bookmark is on page 9.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm at 9 on a bunch.
Yeah.
So I've hit 13 a few times. Like.
So maybe like magazines would be better for you.
I fucking love magazines. I used to go to that one on Beverly. There's a magazine stand.
Sure.
It's
Yeah.
like a full block, and I would leave there with just like bags of I was so excited for that.
Yeah.
I'd buy like every car magazine, like just everything, and then I would get home and Christina would be like, "What are you doing?" And I'd be like, I don't know. Like, I felt like almost it was like buying food when you're hungry. I was like, these all look cool.
Right.
I bought them all.
All right, so let me get to, I prepared for this. Like, I've seen moderators on book talks, and they always have index cards. So,
Well, you're way ahead of Ari Shafir. He did my New York one, and he's like, I listened to part of a chapter. And I was like, what? And he was like, oh, it seems like it's a really good book. I'm like, this is the fucking gig, man. Like,
yeah.
Jeez.
I'm also not high.
Yeah, well, that's a big bonus.
Yeah. So I went to Barnes & Noble I was in Barnes & Noble today, and I was, you had already texted me, or I saw on your Instagram that you were number 2, and so I expected to walk into Barnes & Noble and see they have the bestseller table, and so it was right there.
Yeah.
And you're number 2, and you're not on the fucking table. And then I look in nonfiction, and it's not there, and I have to look around for it. It was like turned backwards. So, Barnes & Noble has all those different tables. Like one will be for like fun summer reads, California section, and they had a table that said Pride Month. So I got like 15 copies of your book, and I put it all over Pride Month. I took a picture. I'll send it to you.
That is.
So.
God, that's why it's so fun to be friends with comics.
Yeah. So one of the things that hit me in the book early on was, because I remember this about you, you talk about really appropriating black culture from a young age.
Yeah.
You just are enamored with black music and black athletes and black style in general.
100%.
Yeah, so where did that come from?
I think I just was disappointed in white people from an early age. It was the antithesis of what I knew, which was, I think, part of the draw. Because, we're in the suburbs. My dad's, really traditional, kind of coat and tie guy. And, everybody that was kind of around me was the opposite of that. And it seemed like such a different world that was somewhat accessible.
Right.
You get it in little doses. And I think it was also the time of, late 80s, early 90s, being in sports, playing football, playing basketball, and then that is also the explosion of hip hop taking place. So all those things together made it to be I couldn't not be drawn to it. I was blown away when friends were not into it. Not into hip hop. I was like, what?
Yeah.
What are you talking about? And then, that's when athletes, you really got to know their personalities and
The MTV.
MTV, Yo MTV Raps, and then all that also coupled with like what was like traditional black comedy, which was like, you know, it was exciting. I mean, like I would sneak in the basement to watch Def Comedy Jam.
Yeah.
And you'd see like all those specials from that era. To me, I was.
Oh, I want
like,
to tell. Anytime I hear a comic that's just starting out, talking to another one, they go, "Yeah, I crushed the other night." I'm like, hold on a second.
Yeah.
I want you to go on Google and look up when Bernie Mac did Live at the Apollo the first time.
Yeah.
And everybody was bombing.
Yes.
And he came out, and people were coming back. Good comics were coming, like what's his name came back and had just bombed, and he goes, and he walks out and he goes, "I ain't scared of you motherfuckers."
Yeah, that was on Def Jam. That was on
Def Jam,
Yeah.
and he that was the kill of kills.
So murderous, and then you're like, "Did you kill like that?" And they're like, "No,
Yeah,
no,
right.
I didn't." Yeah.
Right.
I remember one time, my agent, we were looking at a YouTube video of Bruce.
Oh yeah.
Just killing. I mean, it seemed like somebody was actually getting like hurt in the crowd. Like it was so thunderous.
Yeah.
And he goes, "You will never kill this hard, right?"
Yeah.
And I go, I looked at it, I was like, "No." And then he was like, "I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said that to you." And I was like, "No, you're not wrong. Like, it'll never be like that."
But black crowds traditionally they give you more or they give you nothing. Like you have these sets of your life in front of black audiences.
You can't duplicate.
Yeah.
You cannot. I mean, I opened for Tommy Davidson. I opened for the great late John Witherspoon.
Oh, wow.
You know, like on the road.
Yeah.
And they would be like all black crowds. And yeah, it would be either like a kill you've never had before. If you got that crowd.
Yeah.
And then sometimes you would like approach a topic and like it would be an all black audience and some lady would be like, "Be careful." And you're like, and you're like, "What?" So it's like, "Watch out now." And you're like, "All right, okay." Yeah.
Easy, Tom. Easy, Tom.
Like, okay.
But describe to people how you used to do morning radio when you went on the road as a stand-up comic.
Yeah. I hated it so much. I hated it so much more than I think most. Like, everybody says they hate it, but I'm like, yeah, I think I hated it more because, you know, the whole thing is the club arranges it, and they're just like, "This will help you sell tickets."
Right.
And I resented the morning guy who was like, "Be funny." I would just go in there like, "How about fuck you?" You know? And they were like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "I don't give a shit."
Yeah.
Like, which is not a good attitude to have. You
Right.
know? So then I eventually just had to make it fun for myself. So I would put on, like a fur jacket and like a gold chain and sunglasses. And I would show up and the club would be like, "What's happening right now? What are you doing right now?" And I'd be like, "I'm DJ Dadmouth." And they were like, I would go in there and they were like, "So you're going to be performing at the Funny Bone this week?" And I go, "I don't really care about those shows." And they were like, "What are you here to promote?" I was like, "The after party." Well, there was no after party. But it made it amusing to me, you know? And then I would leave, and they were like, "Well, that was a huge waste of time." I was like, "Yeah, don't ask me to do radio."
Yeah. Right. Oh, it's the worst. And the thing is, you fly in the night before, and if it's a different time zone, now you're waking up in Philly at for LA time 3 in the morning.
Yeah.
So you can go be funny for people that have been drinking coffee for 2 hours.
It's such a rough thing to go through. And then, you know, I gotta first say that there are like some great radio people. There really are.
Oh yeah, Preston and Steve in Philly.
They're amazing. There's a Monsters in the Morning, I think, is like one of the Orlando, like where they're like fun and they know who you are.
Yeah.
Like they actually spend a little bit of time being like, "Oh, this is what you've done," and okay, and they make it they make an effort. But a lot of them, they're just like, you know, "You're from Cincinnati," and you're like, "Yeah," and they're like, "What was that like?" And you're like, "That's it." That's
Yeah. Right.
And I would do things like, "It was fine," and they were like, "Okay." And I go, "Do you have any more questions?" And they were like, one time a guy, I saw this guy in Hartford, I'll never forget. I'm sitting there and he goes, "All right, we're on a break right now. When we come back, just take over." And I go, "What do you mean?" And he's like, it's your show. Like, do whatever you want to do." And I go, "Oh, I'm not going to do anything." And he's like, "What?" And he's like watching the clock. He goes, "We have 15 seconds." I'm like, "It's up to you. It's your show." He's like, no, comedians come here and they just take over the show. I go, it's just going to be quiet. I'm not going to say much. And he was like, oh my God. And then he just got back and he was like, and I was just like, yeah, I used to play in the NFL. And he was like, really? Like, I just made stuff up. You know? I resented them so much.
Yeah. I know. There's some that really, some of them are as funny as comedians. You go to like Mike Calta down in Florida.
Mike Calta in Tampa, yeah.
I mean, guys like that, you can sit and riff with. I don't mind staying for 2 hours with guys like that.
They become like the rare thing you look forward to. You're like, all right, in this market, it'll be fun.
Yeah. Right. You talked about Bruce, and in the book, you sat down on the plane with him, and you guys had a unexpectedly funny conversation where he said that Andy Griffith is the greatest comedian in America.
And the setup, it was like a movie.
Yeah.
Because he would, first of all, as soon as I said that, he didn't know who I was. As soon as I said he was a comedian, you know, he did that thing. He was like, you're a comedian? And I was like, yeah. And then he was so sweet.
Yeah.
Talked to me about like a show. He named somebody who's like, you know how some people keep running the light, you know? And I was like, oh yeah. And like, so he's like talking shit on I was like, this is great, you know?
Yeah.
And he was telling other stories about shows that I was like, oh, this is awesome. And then he's like, who do you think the funniest cat of all time is? And I was like, oh, he's definitely going to say himself. And I was like, so there for it. I was like, please say, it's me, you know?
Right.
And he's like, who's the funniest cat? I go, I don't know who. He goes, Andy Griffith. I was like, what? What did you just say? And he goes, that's the funniest cat of all time.
Yeah.
I go, Andy fucking Griffith. Yeah. And then he really did say, have you ever been to the Andy Griffith Museum before? And I was like, that is the craziest questions anyone's ever asked.
Did you go down that rabbit hole then? Did you start looking up old Andy Griffith? Did I miss something?
I looked up, well, one of the things is he named episode numbers, like a real fucking psycho, you know? And I looked up the number of the episode that he named, and it did coincide with what he was describing, and I was like, this is wild. And I told, of course, other people the story, and I was like, you have to, and man, like, one of my friends, he was like, dude, I just hung out with Andy Griffith, or we hung out with Bruce, and we talked about Andy Griffith for 45 minutes. He's like, he really is, like, he loves him. He loves him.
That's great. Yeah, you never know.
I
Bob
also
Dylan.
sent him the message that I told the story. I was like, I told the story about, I hope you don't mind. And there's like a video of me telling it. And then 2 years later, he's like, that's hilarious. He wrote back to me 2 years later.
That's great. So you, I want to read from the book because there's one selection that I particularly enjoyed, which is you met your friend's aunt. I slept with my friend's aunt. That wasn't good. She was 32 years older than me and looked like Ed Asner in a wig. I had gone to a bar with coworkers who were buying me, a lowly recent graduate, a lot of booze, and so my drinking got out of hand. Later, I would learn that I not only slept with a friend's unfortunate-looking aunt, I also made out with a lady from accounting. And yes, she was much older. So I guess I hooked up with 3 women that I worked with, often referred to as the Triple Crown by HR departments. I woke up at Aunt Asner's house and couldn't remember much. I found my clothes on the stairs, and when I went to the kitchen, I saw report cards on the fridge. They were from her kids, her grandkids. And all I could think is, damn, this bitch is old. Wow. Did your friend ever find out that you slept with his aunt?
Oh, yeah, he called me. He's the one that told me I did. I didn't know what I had done.
Yeah.
I mean, I knew it was bad, you know?
Yeah.
And I blacked out, and when I woke up, it was one of those things where you're like, the fuck am I right now, you know?
Yeah.
And I saw her, and I was like, Jesus Christ. Like, I didn't, it was startling, you know? And this is how bad it was. She went to kiss me, and I gave her my cheek, you know? So I was like, I don't want to do that again. And the next day, I remember he dropped it on me. He goes, hey man, I know what you did last night. And I was like, no, you don't. And he was like, I do. And I go, how would you know what I did last night? He goes, buddy, you fucked my aunt. And I was like, I didn't realize that that's who it was. And the crazy thing is, I told the story on stage recently at a show. That guy comes backstage and he goes, you're talking about my aunt. And I was like, oh yeah, because it's been like all these years. And I was like, oh, that's right. He's like, yeah, you should still be ashamed, is what he basically told me.
Which means his aunt is 90.
She's fucking old, yeah. I mean, it was not cool.
Wow.
Like, when I woke up, I was like, this is an all-time low.
So I want to talk about you for a minute because, I mean, this is phenomenal. This book it's not, I mean, I expected it to do very well because just based on your numbers on the road and your numbers with your podcast. And it's kind of a phenomenon because you're not a guy, you say it in the book, I think you say, I'm really not special.
Yeah.
Like you don't have a hook, you don't have a gimmick. Comedy Central didn't give you a special because they said your stand-up didn't have a theme. You lacked a theme.
It's one of my favorite.
Oh,
yeah.
Fuck them.
Yeah. That was such a, like, you know, you remember some of those moments? Like that call, because I was like, I just saw the path made sense to me. I had done like Live at Gotham. I had done Comedy Central Presents. So it was like the natural trajectory.
Right.
And also at the time, the most desirable place. Like you're like, that's where you want to be.
You're right.
And when I got the call, they were like, they're passing because you don't have a theme. And I was like, what are you talking about? And he was like, there's no theme to the hour. I go, the theme's jokes. It's just funny jokes.
Right.
And then I started to name other I go, what's this theme? What's that? Because obviously it was just a way to say no.
Right.
But that was the line, and I was like, man, all right. And then it was just such a, yeah, I was so bummed out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's just incredible because I've seen you come up. When I first met you, you had me come down and do your mom's house when you and Christina were living in
A guest house in Redondo Beach.
A sad.
Yeah.
It was, I walked in and I felt sad. I was like, look at these poor comics that are, I didn't know you.
Yeah.
You asked me to do the podcast. I was like, sure, I'll do your podcast. But I didn't know it would be like, I'd have to walk around a real house to get to your house. And that all your appliances looked beat up and antique-y without, not antique-y, old.
Yeah.
And then we sat down and did the podcast, and I was like, all of a sudden I was like, you guys fascinated me, and I think I kind of flipped it. And
You didn't kind of flip it. You took over our show. You did like an old school pro move, which is like, I'll ask the questions.
Yeah.
And we were like, all right. So then you were interviewing us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I just remember being like taken by both of you guys right away, and I was like, all right, they're not going to be in a guest house for that long. But you made it this far. No big movie credits.
No.
No big TV acting credits. You basically have done 4 or 5 Netflix specials.
Yeah, I've done 4, yeah.
And that's it. And you are selling out big theaters around the world now. I mean, that's, not a lot of people can say that.
No, I feel very fortunate. I really do. I feel really fortunate, really lucky. And it's part of why I go on that I mean, I was just talking today, I did this a virtual event with Papa earlier about how I do, like, you have to, in the book, you have to be like, hey, I'm trying to be sincere for real. Like, it's not, because, like, when you hang out with comics, you can't be sincere. Right. You know? Like, as soon as you start sincere, somebody just busts your balls.
Yeah.
But I do like to tell people that I honestly am not special for this. But I did take calculated risks, and I did go for things.
Right.
And that you have to do that, whether you're trying to be an actor or a musician or a comedian or whatever. If you're in the arts, you have to be obsessed and you have to go for it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So, I mean, that's the only thing that I have that's, you know, there's no trick.
No, I think it's consistency. Yeah. I mean, I think it's a consistency. It's caring about the product that you're putting out.
That's a big one.
Every podcast you guys do, I mean, you were the first ones to get a staff of people supporting you so that you could go through, you say you get 2,500 emails a week from people.
It's so insane.
And they all get seen, they all get sifted through, and you've got this support, and you invested in yourself. And this is what comes out of it is a number 2
Yeah, number 2.
best-selling book.
Son of a bitch.
I know. And isn't it some right-wing lunatic?
It's like we're losing our country or something. It's like that's what's
You
number
can't
one.
compete with losing the country.
You can't.
No.
You can't. It's like 2 guys. It's like 2 Fox hosts.
Yeah, yeah. And they're destroying the children. So, you love injury stories, and first of all, I should mention my kids went to school here.
Yeah.
At John Adams Middle School in Santa Monica, but this theater did not exist. We were in a den of asbestos when they went to this school. And
this is what that Fitzsimmons money went to. Look at this fucking place,
that's right.
man.
Yeah, it's actually called the Fitzsimmons
Oh,
Theater.
it is the Fitzsimmons Theater. It's nice.
And I was thinking my daughter's at home tonight, and I should have made her sit in the chair I used to have to sit in, and I could have played shitty clarinet for about an hour. But I want to, first of all, give my condolences for your dad passing.
Oh, thanks, man. Thank you.
And it was, well, I mean, it's tough because it happened, I guess, just as you were handing the book in.
Yeah, let's see. I mean, I handed it in, like the final, hey, it's here, it's ready to go, locked in. It was like December 10th or 12th or something like that, and he died on the 29th.
Wow.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah.
But you certainly paint a character. I have a lot of questions about your dad.
He is something. He was something. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, first of all, he fought in a war. Like, that's something that we can't wrap our heads around in this generation.
It took me like my whole life up until like towards the end to really appreciate how much it must have traumatized him. I didn't realize it because he didn't believe in like therapy. And then towards the end of his life, he was like, he clicked with this other guy who was also a vet and like really opened up to him. And that guy was like, I love therapy. My dad was like, I don't want to do therapy. But I wish he would have.
Yeah.
Because it was clear that you go like, oh, he's together and stuff. Like you don't realize how much that must fuck you up.
Yeah.
To actually fight in a war.
Right.
Like the trauma is like, and then he told me like towards the end, he goes, I think about the guys that I lost in my platoon every day. And I was like, every day? He goes, every day. I was like, Jesus, man.
Yeah.
He told me like this, just stories. I mean, there was like stories where it's like combat deaths, but he said the one that haunted him the most was that when they would want to show a film, they would have to like send somebody to like one of the, base camps and get a canister of film and then bring that to another base to show a film.
Right.
And he sent one of his guys to pick up a canister of film, and there was like a downpour, and that guy got swept away and drowned in a river just because he was getting a canister of film.
Whoa.
And he said it bothered him the most.
He wanted to see that movie
He
bad.
really wanted to see that movie. Yeah, he was like...
He was a film buff.
Well, there was tits in the movie, so he really wanted to see the tits.
And your dad liked talking about shit, which I love.
Dude.
Because, I mean, you talk about it in the book, and one of my favorite authors is Milan Kundera, and one of his famous quotes is, kitsch, which is bad art, is the denial of the existence of shit. And that art needs to address, metaphorical and actual shit.
Yeah, I actually have an idea that I pitched for an art exhibit where it's like clear tubes that go up to a platform, and you bring out 6 different body types, and they all shit at the same time. And then wouldn't that be great? And you see like a supermodel, and then like a Bert guy, and then you see them all go. I think it's a great. I think
you can feed them different diets and then guess which color.
You just go stick to your diet, and you just see the mix.
Yeah.
I think it'd be a really
That's great. I took a shit yesterday, and I swear to God, I felt like I needed therapy afterwards. You ever have one of those where it's just like,
please,
it's got no slide to it?
Yeah.
And you're there, and you're like, I can't tell if I'm even halfway done yet.
Yeah. Then there's like the waves, where like you're like, I'm done shitting, and then you're like, wait a minute. And then you shit a second time, but it's a whole different, like, this is like another person's shit.
Yeah, right.
And then there's like a third shit behind it, and you're like, there's other people inside of me right now. Like, this is like, or I also have the bidet, the automated one.
You've told me about your bidet.
And like that thing.
You've got the high-end bidet.
The high-end one, but it goes right in there, and sometimes you're like, oh, you think you're done, but I just opened you up. And there's a whole, it really gets a lot out.
I remember, I think I experienced your bidet at your house one time. Did you send me in to use your bidet?
That sounds like something I would do.
I think you did. And you were like, oh, I got this bidet, you got to check it out. And I was like, well, I don't really have to take a shit. And you were like, I don't want you to take a shit. And I was like, oh, yeah, I knew that. And I went in, and it had like the temperature controller and the pressure controller. It did like a...
it's a game changer, dude.
You could bleach your asshole with your bidet.
You can do everything with it. And then the thing is, when you don't have it, you just feel like such a savage.
Yeah.
Like, you get used to it, and then you travel. I'm getting my ass waxed tomorrow, actually.
Are you really?
Yeah, first time in like 12 years, yeah.
The cheeks or the hole?
No, the whole. Yeah. I mean, I want like because it changes the wiping experience, you know?
Oh, it's like an alpine slide.
That's so nice. Yeah.
And how many times have you done that before?
I've done it once, yeah.
And a human being, you're comfortable with a human being putting wax in your asshole and then ripping it off?
Yeah.
You like it?
I like it.
Yeah. Wow.
You want to come?
It feels like something that should be on your podcast.
Yeah.
I could show up with a camera.
Okay.
So I want to talk about your dad more because you say that he was racial but not racist, which is an interesting distinction to make in people of that generation.
Dude, this is my favorite. This was like a year ago. We're doing our first night of this tour that I'm on right now, this never-ending tour. And, dude, we had landed in Louisville, which is my dad's hometown, and the gig was like 30 minutes away. So we're having a post-show dinner, I believe. Yeah, and so it's like my whole tour crew, which is like Dave, who you met, Sean, Marcus, and then Kirk Fox is like opening those shows, and then my parents came and my aunt and uncle came. So it was a big, long table. Marcus is black, and he's sitting on the like far end talking to somebody else. And at one point, my dad's like, just 1 second. And he gets up, and I go, what are you doing? And he's like, just hold on. And I'm like, all right. And he just walks down to Marcus, and he's like, when you landed today, when you were approaching Louisville Airport, did you happen to look out the window and see that red building near the airport? And I'm like, who the fuck, what are you doing? What? Like, did you notice a red building on the approach? Like, so Marcus is like, no, I didn't. And he's like, my dad goes, 1962. I saw a gentleman named Cassius Clay fight there. And we're all like, and he goes, you know, Muhammad Ali. Like, yeah, we know Muhammad Ali. And then he just looks at Marcus and he goes, just thought you'd like to know that. And he just turned around and walked back. And I was like, Marcus was like, thank you. Thank you for telling me. But I think what he would try to do is like, if you were like not white, he would like run through his head like, what could I connect with this person on?
Yeah,
you know? Right. So he would always just be like, wow. You know, someone's like, I'm Korean. They're like, oh, you know, Kim Il-sung used to drown people. And they're like, oh, thank you very much for sharing that with me. Yeah. That's just what he would do.
It came from a good place. I mean, that's what's interesting is, and he had a work ethic, obviously. He was very successful in business. Yep. And it sounds like, I mean, just extrapolating from the book, that you got your work ethic from your dad and maybe your storytelling from your mom. Is that safe to say?
That's probably definitely it. I mean, yeah, he was always, you know, he was up at 5:36 every day, and you know, he never complained. I think it was definitely like a Marine Corps thing.
Yeah.
Where he set you up to not complain, work hard. Yeah, we worked his ass off, and he didn't really, have any issue with it. It just seemed like that's what you do. Like
Right.
That's normal. And yeah, he wasn't intentionally funny. It was
Yeah.
always unintentional funny.
He
But,
wasn't aware at all.
I mean, very rarely, man.
Yeah.
Like, the funniest shit he ever said was always like he didn't know that was funny, you
Yeah.
know? And then he would try to be funny, and he would laugh so hard at his own shit. I'm
Yeah.
like, actually, there's a couple Comedy Store guys you should meet because they do the same thing. But
They've been canceled.
oh yeah. But yeah, my mom was like an actual funny story, like natural.
Yeah.
If something happened, she would come back and like somebody, like that kind of thing where like my dad would say, well, there was a line and then we just left. And my mom's like, no, there were 400 people in. Like she knew how to exaggerate,
Yeah.
We
Right.
waited for 2 hours. They didn't wait for 2 hours, She knew how to like salt and pepper and exaggerate the kind of things and make the story engaging and talk about like people's, like the details, the characteristics. This guy was long, he was tall, he looked like a tree, She would like describe things in a funny, I was like, oh, that shit was so much funnier when you told it.
Right.
He tells it, he's like, just leaves out every detail.
Yeah.
And then at the end, she's like, and then the guy got shot. You're like, you left out the part where the guy got shot? Like, just two different totally different
Isn't that
styles.
amazing how some people just have that gift?
Yes.
It's just, my aunt has it, and she
Yeah.
can tell a story for 15 minutes, and then I retell it, and it's a 30-second story, and I
Yeah.
can't remember any of the good shit.
Yeah, that is 100% her. Always had that. Knew how to like draw you in, and would kill like in a small setting.
Yeah.
Would absolutely kill, and then anybody repeats the story, it doesn't work.
And also, can I point out, you put pictures of her in the book, and dude, she's a smoke show.
Back in the day,
She was really like kind of fashionable sexy.
big hands. Yeah.
Big cans, and her sister had big cans, and then
Yeah.
they had a friend named Charo.
Yeah, well, that's my mom's name too. So Charo and her best friend was named Charo Figari. Yeah, and they were
Oh.
like super close.
And were they, was that weird having a mom that was that attractive? Did your friends make comments about it?
I mean, no, not, people sometimes would, but it was mostly like people would be like, where's your mom? I'm like, no, this is her. They would think that like she was like a nanny or something.
Yeah.
But-
Oh, because she spoke Spanish?
Yeah, she had a heavy accent,
Oh.
and like we're in these like super,
Oh, that's hilarious.
we're super white Midwestern suburbs. So they'd be like, hey, tell your maid I don't want to eat. And I was like, hey, mom, that's your mom? I'm like, yeah, dude. Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, in those towns, like everybody just called me a spick, honestly.
Yeah.
When I moved to like all those Midwestern, that's what they did. They were like, your mom's from where?
Yeah.
It was just like white kids.
Right.
Yeah.
And you're not afraid to upset her by this book because you say in the book, quote, she can be a real asshole.
Well, also, the title of the chapter for her is Peruvian slang. So in Peru, a common insult is concha tu madre, which is basically fuck your mother. And I titled the chapter Concha mi madre, which is fuck my mom. She didn't like that shit at all. Yeah. I sent it to her and she goes, you are a piece of shit. Yeah, she was like, yeah. She goes, this is going to cost you. I'm like, all right.
How did she take to you putting probably your most viral clip of your career
Yeah.
was a not 7, not 8, 9-second long fart from your
Yeah.
mother? How did that go over?
I mean, she was mortified, It was like, it's one of those things where it really was magic to capture.
Yeah.
I mean, it's our whole lives, like,
And she didn't know anybody was in the room.
she knew I was in the room, but what happened was she had farted, and I think I was like, let's see if you got really a good one in there, And she was just like, I think, just having fun in the moment, and turned and put her hands on the counter. And I just happened to just go, and I just hit the camera icon, and I'm like, there's no way, right? Like, I'm just holding it, and she's facing away. And if you look at it, you can see when she's done farting, this smile creeps onto her face. She's like, and then she turns, she's like, yeah. And I remember that, you know, I had that, and I showed it to her immediately, and I go, the next morning I was like, you know I have to show this. And she's like, I will never forgive you. And I'm like, let's work out a deal. And she was like, no. And then that day we walked by a luggage place, and she's like, I want this Tumi bag. And I'm like, all right, deal? And she's like, no, this is one bag. And throughout the week, we added to the collection. Like, we got, like, the backpack, the side thing, the fanny pack, the wheelie. I was like, you have 4 fucking bags. And then she made me buy her first-class tickets to somewhere, casino, give her cash for that. And it just, she'll just call back to it. She's like, what about the fart video? I'm like, that's from 3 years ago now. Like, I bought her a car recently, and she complained about that within a month. She was just like, it's too big. I'm like, that's your fucking problem now. Like, you picked it. And she's like, it's too tall. I'm like, well, I mean, I don't know. Jump. I don't know what to tell you. Like, she's relentless.
Great. So you said in, I think it was one of your stand-up specials. It was, I guess, the last one before the pandemic. You talked about how, it was your first thing. You walked out on stage and said, I'd rather be home right now. Which was a kind of ballsy way to start a stand-up set, because one of the unspoken rules is, I'd like to be here with you people.
Right.
And you just said, I don't want to be here, and then you did a 10-minute thing about how great home is and how we'd always rather just be home. How did you feel about that 2 years into the pandemic?
Man, that thing wore on me. I think like everybody, but I think with comedians, it was like, it took away the only thing that we really love too. Like, so you're not just home, but like you can't get the fix any other way, like performing.
You talking about deep fried chicken wings?
Deep fried chicken wings and stand up.
Yeah.
But the fact that we couldn't do that, I was ready to leave. And that's why I booked a 2-year tour.
Right.
That I regret every day.
Yeah.
See, I go too hard one way or the other. I'm like, you should just stay at home. And then I'm like, or I'll leave for 2 years.
Yeah. What was a typical day during the total lockdown part?
Man.
Because your kids are what, like?
Yeah, they're 3 and 6 now. So they were, you know, they were what, like 2 and 4 or something. Like,
yeah.
I mean, luckily, it's funny thing, we had just moved to this like great house that we were excited about, and we're like, oh, this will be our house for the next.
This is in the Palisades?
Yeah, we're like, we'll be here for 15 years. You know, we lived there 14 months. But those first few months, we moved into that house in February, and everything shut down like late March, at least in LA. And so then we were just like walking to the bluffs, like looking like, oh, this is nice, you know.
Yeah.
But we got we got crazy in there. We luckily had the podcast is what like saved my brain, like mentally, being able to go do podcasts. And we started doing those live shows. We were selling tickets to like these live events that were like really crazy. But it made it like you felt at least creatively fulfilled in a way, because we're actually doing stuff as opposed to just, because I think you just go crazy sitting at home.
Yeah, right.
Go crazy.
Right. You said that you're not suicidal, but you don't really want to live that much longer, which I could not agree more. It's just, we've done it.
I just feel like I've had a good run.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I'm not going to hurt myself, but if we got up from here and you're like, guess what? This is it. All right.
Yeah.
I'd be like, that was a good run.
That was a good run.
Yeah.
You try to picture another 30 years?
That's insane.
Yeah.
I cannot, no.
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 As the same person?
No. I don't know. I mean, I can't imagine like life 10 years from now. That just seems.
I think I would have to change how I identify just to get through. I mean, if you really want to make it another 30 years and keep it interesting, I think I would have to.
Pronouns.
No.
Oh.
Tits.
Oh, I got okay.
Everything. Yeah.
Yeah, I have that thing too where, you know, we didn't have kids till later.
Yeah.
So you do the math in your head sometimes about how old you'll be when they go to college.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what the fuck? Like, just no. Like, I feel like we need to send them out sooner. I don't want to be around that long.
Yeah, I
I'll be
know.
like 60 when the young guy goes. I don't want to
Yeah,
do that.
right. So let's talk about certain stuff from the book, certain stories that I just feel like I want more information on. You OD'd when you were in college.
Yeah, freshman year.
On a drug I've never heard of. Is it a Florida drug?
I mean, that's where it kind of popped off. Yeah, GHB was...
GHB.
Yeah, GHB, Georgia Homeboy.
Clap if
yeah.
you've heard of GHB.
Well, it's also known as the date rape drug. So,
Oh, is it?
yeah, except I didn't give it to anybody. I gave it to me. So,
Yeah.
but it was, yeah, it tastes like ocean water. And this is how, what you would do is you would buy it from a guy, and it would come in a bottle like this, and it was kind of yellowish in hue, and you would go like that, and you would just go, and then you go, and then like within 30 seconds you were like, oh shit.
Like nod out?
No,
high?
you'd just be like, and,
Nice.
and you would just roll up to anybody, you know, you didn't care. Like confident, you would just be like, and you feel it throughout your body.
Yeah.
But it was easy, because you're getting like street, it was easy to get a dosage that you didn't know if it was as strong or if it was too strong. They would always tell you, just don't drink on it, because it was a deadly combo. So
By the way, can we check real quick that there's no kids from the school that are in the audience? So you OD'd, did they bust the guy who sold you the...
No, it was terrible. It was really terrible. It was the night after Thanksgiving, and everybody would get together and go to, so we went to this party, another party, we ended up at this bar, and I'd been drinking so much. And when the GHB guy didn't have it in this, he had it in a milk jug.
Yeah.
And so I just put it down, and I was like, that's like a lot. And I just swallowed it, and I was like, ugh. And I didn't care because I was already kind of too drunk. And then, you know, my sister's the one who called 911. She was at that party.
She saved your life.
She 100% saved my life. Everybody else was like, let him sleep it off.
It's Florida.
Yeah. And she saved my life, and then, man, when I woke up, you know, I'm strapped down, and they have a vigil at the hospital. You know, they're like praying, and you know, my crazy Catholic mom is just fucking sobbing. And,
wow.
And then the worst part is that you as the person doing it, think of it as like, oh, I got crazy tonight. Like I just went too far. But like to them, and they were like, oh, you're a junkie. Like only junkies OD, so you're a junkie, you know. And I was like, no, I couldn't prove that I wasn't to them.
Yeah.
So I just went like so straight for like a while, where I didn't even have a drink, just to be like, no, I don't have a problem. But it sucked, man.
Wow.
Yeah. I'll tell you right now, ODing sucks. It's not.
Yeah.
It's not cool.
It's got to be embarrassing
It's
too.
so embarrassing.
Yeah.
And then people would like know you as that, right? Like
Yeah.
some people would be like, you know, who are you? And they'd be like, are you? Oh, you're the guy that OD'd. And you're
Yeah.
like, thank you. It's nice to meet you. Yeah. Like,
Well, also, your sister saved you, but you pointed out in the book, being fat also saved you.
the doctor said it did.
Yeah.
Which is, I don't think they tell us that enough. Yeah. He went through that toxicology report, and he was like, you have enough in here to like kill a horse.
Yeah.
And I was like, how am I not dead? He was like, well, you're about the size of a horse, so yeah. Sweet.
I wanted to also ask you about the job you had at a place called Splash.
Splash, the relaxation spa.
So that was in LA?
That was in LA. That's where they used to, if you ever watched Blind Date back in the day.
Oh, sure.
There was a reality show, and they always ended up in hot tubs.
Yep.
That was at Splash.
Okay.
And it was hourly rentals, like you rent a room. I mean, it's basically almost a front for prostitution. Like they didn't provide prostitutes, but they were like, you should bring one here because you can have this room for an hour, you know?
So they didn't provide the prostitutes at Splash.
No.
They were the middleman.
Yeah, they were just like, that's where people would, like, if they called like a escort or something, or just picked one up and you just need somewhere to go, they were just like, well, you can rent a room for an hour. It's just, you know, themed rooms, there'd be a bed, and everything was terrible. And then, I mean, it was just shitty and gross. And then I went there, I applied for the job because I was like, oh, a spa. I like spas, you know, like.
Yeah.
And you get there, you're like, where's the fucking eucalyptus? Like,
Yeah.
what's going on here, you know?
Yeah.
And it's just, you put it together, but at the same time, I'm like 22 and I just need a job. So I'm doing it for a few weeks. I'm like, this is the grossest fucking thing.
Did you wear gloves?
Yeah, but
Was
I
there
mean.
just condoms everywhere?
Yeah.
And did you have to clean the water out of the hot tub?
You just poured in, they had like this, they're like, just pour that in there. You know, this will kill.
GHB?
GHB, yeah. They're like, this will kill whatever's in there.
Wow.
I remember this guy one time called, I was working the front desk, and he was like, this place is disgusting. He calls from the room, and I go down there, and then he's like, look at this shit, and there's just like pubic hairs and everything. I was like, yeah, I'm gonna leave that. I'm not gonna do anything about that. Like, it was just gross, and I left after like 2 weeks. It was so gnarly, dude.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
All right, listen, I have so much more to get to, but there's a part of the show that I wanted to surprise you with. In the book, you mention, I was always embarrassed by this, and I would never admit it to anybody, and I think that's the beauty of comedy, is sometimes you say the things that are the most vulnerable.
Yeah.
Also, a huge Downton Abbey fan.
Yeah. Fantastic.
I love it. Do we love it?
Yeah.
They're not into it.
Well, I mean, I was reluctant to get into it, and it was one of those things where, I mean, it is just phenomenal writing.
Yeah.
It is it's amazing storytelling. I'm serious. I love the show.
I am swept away by it. It takes me to another, and I'm Irish. I fucking hate the English.
Yeah.
And these are the most hateable of the English. These are the rich aristocracy. There's no reason I should like them at all.
I know.
That's how good the writing is.
And then like an episode go by, you're like, what's Lady Mary gonna do?
Yeah.
When she gets back. Like, yeah.
Yeah. So I decided to play a game with you. We're gonna play
God.
Downton Abbey trivia.
No.
Yep.
I'm way out of practice. I'm gonna bomb so hard.
And to do it correctly, you're gonna put this on your head.
All right.
And when you feel you have the correct answer, raise this up in the air.
But I just want to say that I wish I had watched recently.
Hey, I didn't go deep on you here.
Okay.
All right. Multiple choice.
Oh, okay.
All right.
Do I look stupid right now?
You look like an asshole.
Okay, good.
Happy Pride Month.
All right.
Okay. By the way, the show had 229 nominations among all the different award shows. All right. First one is Christmas edition. Saw the appearance of Cora's brother. Cora is the wife. Mm-hmm. Harold Levinson. Which actor played that role?
Paul Giamatti.
Yes. If you get 4 right, you get today's prize.
Oh man. Okay.
Wow, you got really excited about that.
I did. And by the way, I feel like I'm going to be one and done. Go ahead.
The series introduced also Lady Cora's mother, Martha Levinson, who is played by which American actress? Mary Tyler Moore, Jane Fonda, Shirley MacLaine, or Debbie Reynolds?
Fuck. It's one of the last two, isn't it? God damn it.
Yes?
Is it Debbie Reynolds?
No, you got that one wrong. Shirley MacLaine.
Shirley MacLaine. God damn it. I got it wrong. I'm such
Episode
a stupid
1.
little princess.
Episode 1 opens with the news of which of these events? The sinking of the Titanic, declaration of World War I, or the death of Queen Victoria?
Fuck.
Oh, come on.
I don't remember.
You stupid princess.
Is
Sinking
it Titanic?
Yep, you got it. All right, you got it.
There we go.
In the Christmas 2011 episode, someone was sentenced to death from the staff. Who was it?
It was, yeah. I know who it is. Big dude.
Yep.
It's not multiple choice now? I thought we were multiple choice.
Mr. Yates, Mr. Cates, or Mr. Bates?
Mr. Bates.
Mr. Bates, that's right.
Yeah.
All right, and the final question, and then I think we're going to take some questions from you guys that don't have to be about Downton Abbey.
But can be.
Carson was yet again in a state of shock when another newfangled device was delivered to Downton. Which of these was it? Washing machine, vacuum cleaner, or hair dryer?
I'll go with hairdryer.
That is correct.
Yes.
You won. And today's prize is the Battle for the American Mind. The #1 bestseller in the country right now.
That's good stuff.
Congratulations.
That's good stuff, man.
#1.
That's too fucking good. Big praise from Kaylee McEnany.
Oh, how does Tucker Carlson feel about it?
We got Mark Levin, Ben Shapiro, John MacArthur, Victoria. Oh, Tucker, sorry, he is here. Our kids are learning to hate the society our ancestors built. Pete Hegseth has seen it, and in this book, he's got a solution.
I worry about when people from Fox News use the word solution.
You son of a bitch. All right.
I know you're going to read it too. Nine pages of it. 9 good pages.
So the audience questions, thanks to all of you who sent them in. We'll go through a few of them. Tom, was there any part of the book that was difficult to write as far as emotions go? What was the most and least fun part of the entire process?
Well, I mean, the most fun would be when you sat down and it just poured out. I mean, that's the fun. It's like when you get on stage and you do something and it just works.
Yeah.
And it's like, it feels effortless. You're not muscling it. And I feel like there's chapters where I really liked writing Paging Dr. Stupid, that chapter about wanting to be a doctor.
Right.
Because the memories and the details, it just kind of flowed out of me. And then, the struggle was honestly there's always a struggle, to finish it. I was struggling to finish it. The worst part was finishing the book.
Yeah. Did you work into the night, or did you have Yeah. I thought I was further along than I was when they were like, hey, it's due in 2 weeks. And I was like, what is due? And they're like, this book. And I was like, oh my God. And I had to get a week-long extension because I needed it. Yeah.
I ran up on it. It was like cramming for a test again. I was like, fuck, I should have done my work earlier. Just like that, yeah.
Well, you got a 2.1 average in college.
In high school.
In high school.
Yeah.
But you got a book that's the second biggest
behind.
in the country. This guy had a 4.0.
Yeah. I bet you they didn't need an extension.
No.
No.
Any part of the book you left out, or anything your publisher said, no, Tom, we can't do this?
That I left out? No. I mean, the publisher did call me a few times, was like, I don't want this in an email.
Really?
Yeah. I don't feel like I can sell her out. But she was like, I don't know about this. She was scared. And the thing was that I go, oh, I don't care. And she was like, no, but in the book world, this might be received, wrong, one of these things in the book. And I go, oh, I don't live in the book world. I don't care. And she was like, She was like, okay. She's like, you're not worried? I was like, not at all. I don't care.
Yeah.
I go, I live in this other world. Don't worry about it. She was like, all right.
And she's like, I kind of live in the book world.
Yeah. She's like, this has my name on it. I'm like, well, whatever. Yeah.
Do you think Garth Brooks would leave Chili's?
Yeah, I think that he would want to. We're talking about there's 4 layers of hell. I don't know if you know about this. So, when you're in hell, the first room is there's 7 guys, and they each have different size members, and they each take a turn with you, and then you go to the second room. And there's 7 women of different levels of attraction, and you have to have a run with them, and it's rough.
Yeah.
And then you go to a Chili's that never closes, right? And you can wait as long as you want there to like, kind of, eat some pot stickers, like just kind of regroup yourself. And then the last room has the top 75 NBA players of all time, and you have to orally please them. 15 are dead, so you really only have to do 60. And I think Garth would get sick of Chili's. I think he would want to get out, so I think he would.
At least with that hat on, he wouldn't have to look up and see Wilt's face.
God, it'd be so much work. 60 guys.
60 guys, big guys.
Big guys who get a lot of play.
Damn.
So you really got to work them over.
Although, the upside is you wouldn't have to be on your knees because
Yeah.
you'd stand up like a man.
Yeah, you could. Take a lap, you take a lap. Just work them while you're walking. Yeah.
Tom, comedy has always at times offended. Current times, things have changed. How do you feel about that now?
I feel like, people have always been. The only difference about being offended these days is that you can tell people that you are. Like 25 or 30 years or longer ago, everybody was still offended by things, and they just threw something in their kitchen,
Yeah.
Yeah, or they just screamed or whatever. And, you'd have to be like a real maniac to write a letter. That's what you did when you were you're like, I'm gonna write a fucking letter and send that to somebody. The difference now is that you just know. Everybody gets to just project that they're offended. I don't think in what we do, I actually think it's like the greatest thing.
Yeah.
That you get to know what's upsetting somebody, and you can use that. You can lean into it. You can play with it. It's fun.
Yeah.
People get scared of it, but I think the longer you're around, at least comedy, you're like, oh, this isn't this is actually helping me.
Yeah.
It's helping me that somebody's this upset. You kind of want somebody to really not like what you do, and to be like, this offended my sensibilities. I just saw yesterday the first one that I've seen of somebody being like, this book, the audio of this book has scarred me. And I was like, oh, that's fantastic,
Yeah.
I posted it everywhere immediately. I was like, oh, this is great.
Yeah.
This person was like, this should come with a warning. That's great. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's conflict. Comedy comes out of conflict, and obviously there's got to be opposition to what you're saying. And I find clean comics there's clean comics that are organically clean. You got Brian Regan and Jim Gaffigan that are just hysterically funny and happen to be clean.
Yeah.
But there's also a lot that are afraid these days of saying anything that might rock the boat.
Yeah.
And they're just boring.
That's the thing. And that sometimes you hang out with them, and they'll tell you, they go, I want to say this and that, but I don't want to upset my audience.
Yeah.
I'm like, whoa, really? Because they get so into that, they think they're like, well, now I'm known as this. so I can't break that mold.
Right.
You know, and yeah, they're operating out of fear at that point.
Yeah.
Which is a terrible, in any, I think, any of the arts, you operate out of fear, you're kind of screwed.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So why is Bert so fat?
It's out of control. It is. Have you seen him?
He's
recently?
big right now. Yeah.
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 Yeah. That's not going away.
No.
It's called visceral fat. It's when it's like it hardens and it's like sticks to your organs, you know?
Yeah.
It's pressing up on shit and you're like, oh, I don't know why I'm not breathing so well. It's because of your stomach.
Yeah.
That's why. Yeah, no, he, you know, the funny thing is people don't realize how active that dude is. He does so much.
Yeah.
Like, he works out and he runs and all this stuff, but he's just like, it'd be like if a toddler, if you were just like, whatever you want, and like, you just let them indulge, like, you want another ice, you want a 7th ice cream cone?
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah. I'm like,
Yeah.
that's it. He's just a grown man.
Yeah.
Who does that?
Right.
You know, like, he does shit like he's like, haven't drank in a while, feel pretty good about that. And I'm like, when was the last time you drank? And he's like, Tuesday. I'm like, that's not a while.
It should
That's
be a
2
day of the
days ago.
week. It
Yeah.
should be a month. It should be a name of a month. Yeah.
He's just crazy.
Yeah. And you say that he goes on the treadmill with a box of wine?
Yeah, he runs with a box of wine. And then, like, he'll get super fucked up and then be on the treadmill the next morning with a tall boy, you know, and like just drinking. And he's like, I got it in 4 miles. I'm like, you're drinking as you're running.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Which
then
is
all
worse
that-
than actually not exercising. At that weight, I think your doctor would say, take it easy.
Yeah.
Don't push your heart too hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, he's got some issues.
Yeah. But you guys didn't do Sober November, Sober October this year, did you?
No. The people shot that down pretty hard. It's, you know, they're like, should we not do this? Like, Ari gets mad. He's like, it's the best month to go to the Yankees games, and he doesn't want to, like, give that up. And then Bert, it's like a real fucking lifestyle change. He's like,
Yeah.
what am I going to do? And you're like,
Yeah.
he's like, do you just, like, shut your eyes and go to sleep? I'm like, yeah, sometimes, yeah.
And then Rogan just wins it every time.
Yeah, if there's any, like, you know, physical challenge component to it, he's just going to turn on that switch. Just,
Right.
Yeah, kill it. Yeah, but no, I don't think there's any more Sober Octobers coming up.
All right.
Yeah, makes everybody too miserable.
2 more questions. What failure or perceived failure eventually led to a later success for you?
Well, definitely bombing. I mean, bombing is a failure that feels horrible, but you kind of value all of them at some point later, right? You get something out of them, like where you're like, oh man, like there's no worse feeling, but I'm also looking back happy about, not happy, but like I'm glad they happened.
Yeah.
You know, like
Right.
they you learn something from them. They teach you
Usually
something.
your next show is a great show.
Yeah, you get something really out of it that's pretty great. I mean, I would say when Comedy Central turned that special down, that I definitely thought that was I thought I was a failure, and like I was really bummed about it. I mean, really bummed. And then the phone call that I got was that Netflix was acquiring it, and it wasn't a cool call to get at the time. Like, I was like, oh, that sucks.
It was like an envelope with a DVD in the
Yeah,
mail.
Yeah. I'm like, people are gonna send, like, put postage on this? to
Yeah.
get it on that? I was like, this sucks. I mean, I was really bummed about it. And it was 2013 when I booked that, when they acquired it, but they aired it in 2014. And it wasn't like you go, like, it's aired, and then now they're like, oh, it worked. It took, like, 3 months to get a little bit of steam, and then 6 months before I saw things. So that's a long time. Like, it doesn't seem like that long, but at the time, you're like, oh, this didn't work again.
Right.
Because I remember when, like, the half hour when
Yeah.
the Presents aired, they're like, this is going to change your life. And you do the half hour, and you're like,
Nothing.
nothing,
Yeah.
nothing. Yeah.
One other thing that stood out to me in the book is you failed at football.
Yeah.
And it turned into something that, which I liked in the book, that you were very sincerely told people to follow their dreams.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think you very sincerely said it's okay for a dream to not come to fruition.
True.
that football was not something that you think ultimately would have made you happy.
I don't actually think so. And you get caught sometimes. You ever like where you look back and you're like, man, I wonder if I would have like really applied myself.
Yeah.
I wonder if I would have trained as hard as I know I can, and then I'll have that realistic thing where I'm like, I never would have done that. And I also would have been miserable.
Yeah.
I mean, I was miserable for my roommates that were playing in college, and I saw them doing like, 5 a.m. off season. I was like, I was never gonna be that guy.
Yeah.
I was high.
Yeah. High is better.
High's way better.
Yeah. All right, we want to tell everybody, you've all got your books tonight, and I hope you enjoyed it half as much as I enjoyed it, and Tom, couldn't be happier for you, prouder for you.
Thank you very
Nobody
much.
deserves it more,
Thank
so
you
congratulations.
So much. Thank you.
my
Thank you guys for coming. Appreciate you. Thanks very much.